William, these don't look like old fruit.
Judy, it's heritage fruit.
Oh, we'll tell you what we mean next on Garden Time. Welcome to Garden Time. We're at Fort Vancouver in Vancouver in their interpretive vegetable garden.
And we were holding these melons when we opened the show, and Caleb here brought me some that were cut up to taste.
And later in the show, we'll be seeing how pioneers used all the vegetables in this garden.
Also coming up on the show today, we are going to be taking you out to a honey harvest.
But coming up first, we'll introduce you to some fermented vegetables. I'm at Blooming Junction today, and usually we come out and we talk about plants, but we're going to talk about the other part of their business today, about the produce. So I'm with Justin. So Justin, you're really the farmer here, and also you teach classes, so really you do a lot here.
Yep, we stay busy. Yep, lots of farming, trying to teach people about how to put away their garden food as well.
Yeah, because it really is another part of vegetable gardening, is to preserve it so we can enjoy it at other parts of the year. You just don't have to eat it all right in the summertime.
Yep, get a taste of summer in the middle of winter.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So now we're going to talk about fermentation. So give us a little bit of an easier term, because it sounds kind of scary, but it's like sauerkraut, right?
Yeah, exactly. We're in fermentation, we're just creating an environment that will help to save our food throughout the winter. So in the case of sauerkraut, we're creating an environment where beneficial bacteria can use the sugars from the cabbage, and they release lactic acid as a byproduct of that fermentation process, and then that lactic acid helps to preserve our cabbage.
So that's all the chemistry of it, but really you don't have to add anything other than a few steps. I mean, there's not things that you really have to add, so how do you start?
It is very easy. So we start with our fresh cabbage. I always recommend fresh cabbage from a farmer's market like this because it's going to have a higher water content, which we're going to need for our brine. And then you chop up the cabbage into 1/8 to 1/4 inch strips. I personally like to use a chef's knife, but you can also use a mandolin for this process. And we put it in a mixing bowl. We add enough salt to be able to create a salty environment to prevent bad bacteria from spreading. And the ratio is 1.75 pounds of cabbage to 1 tablespoon of salt.
Oh, not much.
Yeah, you mix that all together, you really get in there and grind it, and there are lots of ways to do this. You know, back in the day, they'd have their big crock and use a 2x4 or, you know, something large to smash it, but I like to just get in there and work it with my hands. You pack it into a jar so that the brine level is over the cabbage to be able to keep any mold from spreading on top, and you let it ferment from 7 to 21 days depending on the taste that you like.
So you just wait, and it's your family, your taste. So after 7 days you taste it, and if it's strong enough you're ready, or you let it go longer.
Yep, exactly. It's going to have a little more of a bite the longer you let it ferment, because it'll continue to consume more sugars and release more lactic acid. But yeah, anywhere between 7 and 21 days to your, yeah.
And then how long can we have it then? And like put it in the fridge or in the pantry?
Yeah, so at that point, what we teach in our class is that it will store in the fridge for at least 2 months, sometimes longer. And you can take the additional step of doing a hot water bath to preserve it and make it shelf stable by canning it. But we do lose a lot of the probiotic bacteria by doing that. So if that's what you're after in sauerkraut, I recommend just keeping it in the fridge and not doing the canning step.
Oh, perfect. And then what other kind of vegetables can we use in fermentation?
Yeah, and so there are a number of other ferments that we can do. What we teach here, though, is quick pickling or refrigerator pickling. So like, for instance, with our cucumbers, you know, we chop them up, or you can use the baby cucumbers whole. And in this case, we're using a water and vinegar brine, water, vinegar, salt brine to help preserve the pickles. So, you know, you can add, we have fresh dill.
That's beautiful.
You know, we like to recommend whatever herbs and spices you like. We have some peppercorns, chili flakes, and stuff in those dill pickles. And, you know, beets are another one. We've done green beans, and really you can pickle anything. I mean, we've heard of watermelon rind, okra, you know, basically anything out of your garden. You can make a half and half water, vinegar, and with an addition of salt, make a brine to preserve any of your vegetables from the garden.
Well, you could hear it from the farmer and the chef in you. So you can come out to Blooming Junction and come to some of the classes, get your produce, get some plants. But if you have any other questions, go to the website and you can find out when those classes are. There's a small fee for them, but you take home part of what you make. Thanks so much. It's delicious.
Garden Time is brought to you by Capital Subaru, your way on the Parkway.
They had to take the car, they had to get it open with the jaws of life, take me out on a backboard, took me to a Trauma One center. I absolutely feel like the Subaru saved my life.
Well, we trust Capital. We trust our salesperson here, Jackie.
Jackie's great. I believe that she really cares about us.
She teaches me about the Subaru.
Our way on the Parkway.
The health and beauty of your garden starts from the ground up, and healthy soils begin at Grimm's Fuel. For the best in garden mulch, blended soils, and bark dust, choose Grimm's. U-Haul delivered or installed, Grimm's can do it. And if you're looking for a new lawn, Grimm's can do that too with our special lawn installation service. Grimm's is also the area's largest recycler of yard debris. The foundation for a healthy garden begins at Grimm's Fuel.
Every year, trees fall or break, causing property damage, power outages, and injury.
Now is the time for Bartlett Tree Experts and Collier Arbor Care to get your trees ready for the extreme conditions ahead.
Our free consultation will help to spot the signs of potentially hazardous trees.
We can help address problems before they occur. Whether it's trees or shrubs, we can help you get a healthy and beautiful garden.
Collier Arbor Care and Bartlett Tree Experts, providing environmentally safe tree care since 1907.
To bring the extraordinary colors of fall to your landscape, you need to come to a place that offers more than the ordinary. At Sagawa Nursery, we love fall. From brilliant yellows to vibrant reds, we have one of the Northwest's largest selections of Japanese maples. At Sagawa Nursery, we also have a colorful selection of hardy plants, so your home can be as beautiful as the season. Come visit us and see how we can help you make your season extraordinary. Sagawa Nursery, growing beyond the ordinary.
So we are just across the river in Vancouver, and we are at Fort Vancouver, where they have a beautiful garden that was dated way back to 1840 of how people grew stuff, vegetables and flowers, and what exactly they grew back then. And I'm here with Nancy. Nancy, what is it that you do here?
I manage the historical garden. I manage the volunteers in the historical garden, because all of this is done by volunteers here.
Well, that's impressive alone right there. Bless people's heart for doing that. But this is impressive to me because it really is, you're not just guessing at what they might have had here in 1840. So first of all, tell me, how did you find out what to plant for this garden?
Well, through research, we have what's called the Cultural Landscape Report. Has documented from journals, from letters, seed lists from ships coming overland from York Factory of what they did grow, and of documents of what they ate, so that we can put together of what they did grow here in the 1840s.
And have you found, what has happened when it comes to, like, okay, let's say it's a potato, then how do you know, because we have so many varieties of things now, how do you know that you're getting close to what that actual potato was?
That's a very good question. We have to research and find out how old the potatoes are, where they came from. Are they from England, from back east, from Canada, Eastern Canada, and try to find as old a varieties as we can, because a lot of times they just said potatoes or they said peas and really didn't specify what the variety was.
And you know, speaking of peas, we had talked about, you know, the way you guys grew peas here, and people see them, and a lot of times you leave them hanging on, you're not picking them, they think you're wasting them. But that's not true, is it?
No, it's not. They would have dried them and used them in the winter. They're good for storage, they last for years, where a fresh green bean is going to last you a week or two. If you ate all of them, you'd have no food for the winter. So they would really want to dry them and save them to use throughout the winter for the traders or the ships.
Which I find fascinating about this garden is because you actually pay attention to not only what grew, but how and why they grew it and what they did with it as well.
Correct. Correct. We really try to preserve the food as much as possible in the manners that they did, which would be drying, salting, pickling, a variety of fruits and vegetables to be able to be used in demonstrations in the kitchen as they would have done in the 1840s.
So Nancy, I know that the goal is to eventually get every plant, flower, vegetable, herb in here at 100% accuracy. What percentage are you at currently?
With the fruits and vegetables, we're at about a 99% accuracy. We've worked really hard to come up and be as accurate as possible. Flowers, not quite so much, but we're working on that, and we do want to be 100% accurate to the 1840s of what Dr. McLaughlin grew here at that time.
Well, and I found it interesting that we put flowers in because we think they're pretty, but they did it for other reasons as well, didn't they?
Well, they did it for medicinal purposes, also because they did want it to look nice, like an English garden, so they did have flowers, and that's documented that they incorporated the flowers into the garden, as well as like the strawberries along the pathways. It was noted that they did have strawberries on the pathways. So we grow strawberries on the pathways as they would have in the 1840s.
And the same thing, there's blueberries here, but certainly not like the high bush blueberries that we see for sale today.
Correct. We researched and found the oldest varieties we possibly could. One of them is a Brunswick of blueberries, so they're a low bush blueberry, but they did document they had blueberries here in the garden. They had black currants, they had white currants, and a lot of different fruits that they had in the garden at that time.
And I was amazed to see portulaca, which is moss rose for the common name of the plant. My grandmother loved that and grew it all the time in Texas, and yet it was here in 1840.
We discovered that, Miss Dorset discovered that with her pollen studies that they did.
Fascinating.
It's portulaca. Unfortunately, there's also a weed called purslane.
There is.
That's a portulaca family. So we do have that here too.
Yeah.
And it probably is from descendants of the weeds that were there at that time.
Well, you know, I love history and I love gardening, so what a delight this has been for me to be here. For more information on everything that's happening here and just studying and looking back into how we used to garden 150 years ago, you can go to gardentime.tv. We'll click you over to their website, find out all information about this wonderful fort in Vancouver. Thank you so much, Nancy.
Thank you.
Garden Time is brought to you by Portland Nursery, a passion for plants, a nursery for plant people.
Do you want to be green? Do the easy stuff first. Hi, I'm Sarah from Portland Nursery. The U.S. House Energy and Commerce Committee says for every $1 spent on a shade tree, you can save $5 on cooling, blocking the penetrating heat in the summer and allowing the warm rays through in the winter. Dollar for dollar, there's no better energy and money saver than a good, deciduous shade tree. Portland Nursery's professionals can help you make the perfect selection. Portland Nursery, a passion for plants, a nursery for plant people.
Fiberon. Deck it right the first time.
Fall is a time to think of planting and planning. Planting new plants now will help them get a jump start on next year. Black Gold All-Purpose can help your plants get ready for winter and next spring. Formulated with a blend of natural and organic nutrients, it contains everything your plants and spring bulbs need for a happy and healthy start. Look for Black Gold All-Purpose at your local garden center or nursery. Black Gold, all the riches of the earth.
Fall in the Northwest is
the best time of year to plant, with warmer soils and cooler evenings.
A time to spend with family and friends.
Fall is a time to celebrate.
To decorate.
And to enjoy the colors that are only found here in our area.
Fall is a time to come to Garland Nursery.
And let us show you all that fall can be.
Garland Nursery, inspiring beautiful and bountiful gardens.
as gardeners, we're really sensitive to pollinators in our garden, so we want to be really sensitive to honeybees, which are at the top of that chain. So I'm with John Edwards from Rural Bee Supply, who knows everything about beekeeping and about honey harvest, which Jeff Guston got to go witness not too long ago. So maybe you can start with the first steps. You were at Carey's, at his bee yard, and so what was like the first steps that happened there?
Yeah, well, the first step was to actually go and get the honey. So that's what we did. So we all went out into the bee yard and we started the extraction process. So the first step, you go out to bee yard. Actually, you wouldn't walk in front of the hive like this, you'd walk around the back, but we'll ignore that one because they feel invaded if you come to the front. So we would go and start from the back. The first thing we would do is lift off this lid here. So then what we would do is we would grab ourselves a hive tool and we'd peel off this lid here. And this is easy because it's just going to come off easily, but this is called an inner cover. So we take that off, and then we'd be looking down into this box, and we would get some sense of how much honey was in there. And we could see that pretty easily. And if we felt it was, this box was pretty well loaded with honey, we'd say, okay, well, we'd like to take that, please.
And it's called robbing the hive, isn't it?
And this is called robbing the hive, yeah, which is a little unfair because we try to be kind of symbiotic with the bees. We try to make sure that they have enough honey to get through winter. We don't just rob their food for the winter. So, in fact, the way this works is that the main brood chamber is in these two deeper boxes down here. And all of their winter stores are kept down here, and that might be as much as 80 pounds or so of honey in this area here. But if the nectar flow is good, if there's lots of food around, they'll just keep making more and more honey. And so we put on extra boxes for them give them room. So we've gone into this honey super, this is called the honey super up here, and we've looked in and we've said, ooh, yeah, there's some good honey in here. So we are going to take this box off, but it's not that simple because this is like money in the bank, you know. They know it's money in the bank. This is what they need to get through until next year. So they don't really like the idea of us taking
all over the place. They're going to be after you.
They could start to get excited. So what we do is we encourage them to go down below. So what we have here is a fume pad or fume board. And this, you can see, has got some felt lining on here, which is absorbent. So if you put something that on here that the bees don't like the smell of, they really hate the smell of, and then you turn this upside down and put it back on the box, the heat from the sun will warm up this pad, and that will cause this smelly stuff to vaporize down. Put this back on and wait a few minutes, and the bees will say, oh, you know, and
out of here. Okay.
And they'll drop down below. And so I can't see any bees here. They've all gone down below. So then you're going to pull this honey super off. And
that's probably pretty heavy and drippy. And
yeah, this could weigh, 40, 50 pounds.
All right.
And loaded with honey. So the next step is to take this over to your honey room, whatever it is. It might be your kitchen. Place this somewhere and get yourself set up to actually harvest this honey.
So John, this is now, the super is filled with honey. It's probably dripping, and we have to go to the honey house. So let's go step over into another part of the store.
Okay, let's go.
So John, we're in a honey house now, so what is the next step?
Okay, so now we start going through each of these frames and actually taking the honey off the frames. And the first thing we do is grab one of them, and this will be fairly heavy. What we're going to do is we're going to use this uncapping knife, and you're going to slice off all of the caps off the comb. And now you've got the honey that's uncapped, except it never works out quite like that. There's usually bits that you couldn't quite get, so you have another little device called a capping scratcher, and that scratches any comb cells that you didn't get with the knife.
Well, of course, it's really wonderful, wonderful honey, so you want to get all of it.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. So now the frames are uncapped. What's the next step?
Okay, so now they're uncapped, they can actually be extracted. And what we're really doing is we're just going to spin the frame around really fast and the honey will just fly out.
And then after that, it's the end of the process and you bottle it?
Well, some people like to filter their honey, some don't. But what you really do is the extractor tank is open and there's a bucket like this underneath.
Okay.
And so the honey is, as you're spinning it, is pouring out of that gate down below into this bucket here.
So this seems like a pretty technical, really a labor-intensive kind of experience here. So do you have classes?
We do have classes pretty much all year, and it's not quite labor-intensive, but you do have to know what you're doing, and so the classes are important. And the best way to think of it is if you compare it to pets. Pets, you've got to feed them every day, take care of them, take them to the vet, that kind of thing. Bees, you don't have to do any of that. But timing is important, so you have to understand what you're doing so you know when to do it. And that's the key with beekeeping.
So it seems like it's really labor intensive, but at the beginning everything is. So if you have any other questions, please go to gardentime.tv. We'll click you over to their website, to Rural Bee Supply website. You can find out when there's classes, more information, how to get to their store, and find out if you want to put a hive and learn all about honey at your house too. Thanks so much, John.
Thank you, Jenny.
Welcome to Blooming Junction, where it's easy to connect with nature. At Blooming Junction, you'll find beautiful, healthy plants, good, fresh food, and a place to regain peace and calm in your life. We have an unsurpassed collection of unique and distinctive plants and the expertise to help any gardener be successful. And we feature Blooming Advantage plants. Come check out Blooming Junction for an inspiring experience in the garden or in the kitchen. Blooming Junction, offering quality plants for beautiful gardens.
Walking into Standard TV and Appliance is immediately an awe-inspiring moment. Not only are there vast displays, but there are functioning kitchens.
To be able to stand in a kitchen setting and look at appliances and touch them and feel them and see how they work is a huge benefit for us.
Whether it's a contemporary kitchen or whether it's more of a classic setting, it gives people ideas and gets people excited about the finished product.
Since 1947, we set the standard. Standard TV and Appliance.
Little Baja is your source for a whole lot of terracotta and concrete too. From bird baths and benches to Buddhas, bears, and fountains, plus the exclusive Baja chimney. We have an amazing variety of the finest in terracotta and concrete containers. Come check out our selection of statuary for any garden theme or setting. So for something for the garden, deck, or patio, come see us at Little Baja on East Burnside in Portland. Find us on Facebook too.
A destination farm and garden market featuring the very best each season has to offer. Smith Berry Barn offers seasonal farm fresh fruits and vegetables and specialty herbs and perennials. Visit the historic barn for distinctive gifts, gourmet foods, and homemade milkshakes. Right now we have fresh picked or pick your own berries ready in our fields. Here's what we have to offer this week. Centrally located off of Shoals Ferry Road between Sherwood and Hillsborough. Smith Berry Barn, growing good taste from the ground up.
So generally when I'm here talking with Bonnie of the Regional Water Providers Consortium, we're talking about how you can save water in your garden. Well, today, Bonnie, we're in the garage and we're still going to be talking about saving water, but it's a whole different concept. So tell me what we're going to be doing.
Yeah, so we're talking about the amount of water you need to store for an emergency and for how long and how much.
And I'm going to assume, because I'm this way a little bit, anytime we talk about safety and doing this kind of thing, there's a part that kind of scares us because we think we're planning for the worst, but really that shouldn't make us afraid. It's a pretty easy thing to do, and then we are planned and ready for the worst when it comes our way if it ever does. So that's a good thing to plan on.
It is, and yes, we are planning for the worst, but this is also a great step to make sure that you're prepared during winter storms or any other type of emergency that happens.
It really takes a lot of pressure off you in the big picture.
Exactly, yeah.
So then I would think that saving water is you get a jar, you fill it with water, or you go and buy stuff and you're good. But there's some specific science-proven things that we need to do to make it work.
Yeah, so there's two different things that you can do for storing water. You can purchase bottled water, commercially bottled water, and that's all you have to do. You just make sure that you change it out with the manufacturer's expiration date. Or you can use your own container, as I have here. I have two 55-gallon containers, and to do that, you really need to make sure that your container is sanitized first, and then you can fill it with potable water, and you want to change it out about every 6 months to a year. You know, if an emergency happens after 6 months, say, your water isn't bad, it's not going to go bad or anything. You just want to make sure, when in doubt, treat it.
Yeah, and how would you go about doing that?
So one way to do it is to use household liquid unscented bleach, and there's instructions usually on the container of bleach, or we also have a printout on our website that you can use. And then another method really is to boil water, and you want to make sure that it's boiling for a full minute, a rolling boil, and then it's safe to consume.
And I'm sure that information's on your website too, how to do that.
Yeah.
Now, here's one of the things though that I'm interested in. I see, what is it, like 50-gallon barrel, 50-gallon barrel, all these down here, which are, how much do each one of these things?
So these are 7 gallons a piece. These are a gallon
So
each.
I'm seeing a lot of gallons, but you have a specific number of water that one person needs for, let's say, 2 weeks, 14 days.
Yeah,
right?
So we recommend 1 gallon per person per day for 14 days. And if you have animals or people with special needs, you might need to do more water than that.
And that also, that's not just drinking water, that includes all kinds of water that you might need, right?
Yeah, so it's drinking, personal hygiene, and cooking as well.
And you even went as far as to buy a kind of a pump to get out of the bigger things too. So you're really thinking far ahead about what you might need.
Yeah, so I have water for my family of 3, plus I know that probably some of my neighbors are going to need some water, and then I have a pump here that we can use to take water out of the container.
And then when it is time to drain it, you're not just throwing it down the street, you actually use it in your garden at this time of year.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to siphon these and re-sanitize them and refill them up this next weekend.
And then I'm going to also assume that there's something you're going to be doing at Regional Water Providers Consortium to help get people interested and give them information about this. What is that?
Yeah, so September is National Preparedness Month, and so we are asking people to take the 14-gallon challenge, and that is to make sure that they have 14 gallons of water on hand for each member of their family, and then if they could take a selfie with their water and post it on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, with the hashtag 14 gallons, and that way we can get the word out to other people and we can have a little bit of fun too. And we're going to be giving away 7-gallon containers to help inspire people to take part in it.
Well, you know, we get so much information from the Regional Water Providers Consortium on how to use water wisely in our gardens. This is a great idea and a concept of how we can use it wisely for ourselves as well. So for more information, you can always go to gardentime.tv. We'll click you over to their website. Thank you so much, Bonnie.
Thank you.
Welcome to Fort Vancouver.
Judy, I don't want to be late.
You're not going to be late. There's a big event happening tonight. It's Campfires and Candlelight. It's a free event happening at 4 o'clock.
So for more information on this really fun event, for the beautiful gardens you saw today, and for the historic Fort Vancouver, you can always go to gardentime.tv and we'll click you over to their website.
William and I thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week here on Garden Time.
The proceeding was a paid program of the Guston Creative Group and its sponsors.